Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show about video game movie reviews and Sonic movie news and other things, because today we have officially declared the console war is over. With me here on the front lines to witness this historic surrender is Devin. How's it going?
Totally defenseless, probably going to get blown up.
What quote's that from?
I think it's from the movie, I think.
Oh, okay.
I'm on 100 best quotes from the world's most powerful hedgehog from kidadl.com, facts/quotes/best Sonic quotes from the world's most powerful hedgehog.
Okay. I have a feeling it's probably AI-generated nonsense. And powerful is not fastest. Powerful.
No, this was
hedgehog,
written in
Shadow.
2023. Okay.
They were doing all that stuff.
There's an age here. It says 0 to 99.
Yes, that is okay. There you go. See, no, because it was like a year and a half ago. You had a Rouge the Bat quote that was like ripped off from someone else. It was that's definitely concept mill nonsense. But it doesn't matter, Devin. We're sitting here. We pulled out our lawn chairs because peace has finally managed in the middle of the console wars. I almost said Middle East.
I've laid down my gun. I can finally put it to rest. I've taken off
we're
my
reporters.
helmet.
We're not actually soldiers, unless you were cosplaying.
Oh, I was fighting. I don't know what side you were on. But...
Well, I know in some areas of the world, if you are wearing an outfit that says journalist, they just shoot you anyway. So maybe it was right that you dressed up as the winning side.
Right.
Yes,
folks. I just go wherever who's winning. I just switch sides constantly.
we have articles on more important stuff. We'll talk about we'll have up on screen, but we don't have one for this. Atari finally won. They bought Intellivision.
Who would have thought?
They bought it off of Tommy Talarico. And they left him his Amico game console, so he still has to. And they're funny. Not only did they buy it off of him, but he has to license off their own games to himself. But I thought that was funny.
It's funny to me is that I actually thought Atari was like long gone. I don't know why. Because I haven't seen.
In a sense,
I don't know.
Are the Atari
because you don't see them at
gone.
the only time I would see them is at like one of those like retro game stores, where they sell used stuff, and there's an old Atari sign from 1983 or whatever. Like, so I'm like, is Atari still like? I haven't like.
They are.
Like, I'm assuming they are in some capacity, but not in the way that I don't know you'd see in the 80s, 90s pop culture.
They license off to small, cheap Chinese, I presume, electronic companies to make those little dinky plug into the TV and you can play, like, they throw in targets and all that type of stuff. But also, like, they have been slowly publishing more, like, compilations and stuff of games. The big one I actually recommend people check out by Digital Eclipse, which they would later then buy a Digital Eclipse in a good way. Atari 50. It is a playable documentary of Atari. So, like, you'll be watching and then you'll be playing the thing that they're talking about and stuff like that. Very cool. And then Atari also bought Night Dive Studios. They do a lot of remasters and remakes of classic games. A lot of them are PC shooters.
Counter-Strike.
They did the Quake and Quake 2 stuff. They did the Doom 64, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, Dark Forces. That was a Doom-like shooter from back in the day. All these things they've been remastering, and Atari has bought these two companies to be like, just continue what you're doing, because we're now a, like, retro reimagined kind of company. So them buying Intellivision, I imagine they're going to do the same thing, be like, hey, this is important, these are cool stuff, check it out. And that's what they are. Like, they're not like they're not making anything new, not in like indie level budgets type of stuff if they make anything.
Well, now that they've won the war, they can pretty much ask for anything. Like, they can make Sony pay for reparations for the last 30 years.
They even jokingly said that in their press release, like, we've ended the longest running console war, So even though television was long gone, The one thing I am happy about with this is to me a win. This is one of those acquisitions that's a win, is because in television, when it was purchased from its previous owners by the hands of Tommy Tallarico, just gutted and destroyed their old website, just removed to be an Amico kind of advertisement page, and their YouTube channel, which has the dead founder of Intellivision, an interview type of stuff. All those videos were gone, replaced with like, I don't know, whatever Amico branded stuff he had thrown on there. So it's cool to be like a company that cares about video game history to an extent that they can make money off of that idea has, purchased it. Like they're going to do something with that to give it a little bit more respect. I've never played in television anything. My mom did. I guess she had a television as a kid. But I don't really know any television games. I know like the little pixelated running man is like their logo. That's about it. So,
like it's like a sports logo, like the NBA and stuff.
Honestly, if you called it Video Ball, that would definitely be like their,
you got, just like a
just made
it's like
squares.
blacked out and then red and it's always red and blue. I've realized like MLB, NFL, NBA is all red and blue. I know it's like kind of America colors. Pokemon.
They do the same thing for their national championship.
Sonic.
Things. Overwatch did that too. It was orange and white though. Remember Overwatch for the Overwatch?
They should remember Overwatch just in general.
Yeah, they ruined that by like trying to. Here's the thing, guys. You make a successful video game, a multiplayer thing. That's what you're known for as Blizzard. And then you're like, ooh, that esports money. Sure, you go after that, but like they changed the game so much just to cater to that it wasn't fun for like the fact that if you want to play as Damage, you have to sit in line and wait to play. What?
It's like Disney World, but like you don't even at least get to see cool amusement park stuff while you're waiting in line.
And they're gonna charge you to stand there.
Overwatch 2 is definitely one of the most disappointing games I've played. Really. And it sucks because I still have the Overwatch that no one else, I'm not going to show it on camera, but I have my Overwatch mouse pad still to this day that you gave me as a graduation gift.
Desk mouse mat that was a joke graduation gift for graduating college. I was going to say high school.
2017. Yep.
Yeah,
it's getting old now.
I mean, it's out of date too. There are characters that are,
there is asses missing on this.
I want to see the hamster,
just his little ass.
Yeah. Well, and fun news is over now, Devin. We have to talk about the sad news. Let's look at all these video game layoffs. Devin and I have this large list here. We're not going to like read it off necessarily. Everything
shout out to whoever is making this. I don't know. Published Obsidian.md, but I feel like this is just like a master. I see a lot of game industry biz. Maybe it's someone from there putting this together.
Could be. Could be.
But yeah, this is like the bet. We needed this list a couple months ago when we were first talking about this. Where I think it was late January, early February when we last did an episode, kind of like a newsy episode, and the main topic was, video game layoffs have already beat 2023. 2 months into 2024, and it hasn't stopped. Unfortunately, there's been. Even just looking at this list here, you have 50 here, 13, 36, 125. This is all within like the last week. 136, 6, 25, 30. And obviously there's big ones like Take-Two Interactive on April 17th. 600 right there. Big drop in the bucket. Sega. Yeah, 240. 670 on my birthday. EA just got crushed there. And as we've mentioned before, oftentimes like the companies will be like, "Oh, we only laid off 2% of our workforce," and then like to hide the bigger number, which is 600.
Yeah, hundreds of people.
Just one person's already sad enough, but seeing like 50, 25, 30. I've worked on teams where there's 20 people. Like I'm trying to when I visualize that number, I'm just like, wow, everyone here get laid off, and then an extra 20. Like it's hard to wrap your head around it once you like think about like if you've folks here who've worked other worked full-time jobs where there's maybe you have a big team that like just visualize if everyone there just got let go in one day.
And it's a lot of it's like the major companies. It's the same kind of groups. Like Embracer's name is all over this because there are companies like it's during the pandemic. it was very easy for a corporation to get a loan. They can get cheap capital that way. So then they can fund a whole bunch of stuff because the video game market was booming like crazy. It's still in a boom. Let's not, kid ourselves. Video games are still a hot commodity. It's just not the insane, no one has anything to do, so everyone's at home playing Animal Crossing and whatnot. People were buying consoles and buying video games because they weren't going to check them out. So, companies like Embracer thrived there because they could buy things and invest. And now, the party's over. You got to pay those loans back. And, oh, man, this isn't giving us as much money. Who would have thought, Devin, that company like Embracer, mainly just making remakes of mediocre games from the 2000s, wasn't going to make them billions and billions of dollars. Like, I like the Destroy All Humans remakes that they did them. They weren't that great, to be honest. They were kind of cheaply done. And they didn't make millions and billions of dollars. Who would have thought? The SpongeBob games and anything THQ made back in the day,
they were really
like, oh, we could just do
especially
that
especially with SpongeBob, they're really banking on the nostalgia.
Yeah.
But I wanted to mention here, and this is in one of our articles ahead, but we don't have to show it right this second. But
okay.
Yeah, you're talking about like the boom, right? Quarterly sales for the maker of the PlayStation game machines rose 14% to 3.48 trillion yen. That's 22 billion US dollars just last quarter. So this always makes me more mad because it's just like, oh, we only got $22 billion. Okay, yeah. Sorry, folks. We're going to have to let you go. Go. Someone else will hire you. Just kidding. Feels like everyone's getting laid off everywhere. Is there really going to be new jobs opening up? I don't think so, unfortunately. So I don't know how many, maybe of the 100,000 people who've been laid off, maybe only, I just throwing numbers out here. Obviously, I'm not a economist, but it's just like I could see only like 10% of those people actually getting back into the industry. Like that's what happens with these
anytime soon.
Yeah, at least not anytime soon with these kind of things, right? Or we talked about we've many episodes ago we even did one on just like the general layoffs in other industries, right? You had the entertainment industry, you had the movie industry as well. Like a lot of those people have to just go and find just new jobs and new sectors. We've seen it firsthand in where we grew up in Rochester. I remember it has trickled even today in Rochester, where it's like Kodak went under, and all those people either had to find new jobs in Rochester or they moved out of state because they had nowhere else to go. And they're like usually in places like Rochester where they're like, yeah, we're really good with. I mean, Rochester came out of Kodak, but Kodak kind of built that city. So it's just like once you take that away, people are like, wait a minute, now what do I got to do? And they're like, I don't know. Good luck. Go find something. So that's my biggest concern now is there's no way all these people are going to be getting back. And it's not like, oh, Sony lays off X amount of people that another company's like, you know what? We have X amount of positions now. Like these are $billion, trillion-dollar corporations at this point, deciding that their margins aren't high enough, and they're like, yeah, go find another job at an indie studio that's maybe only hiring one person. But yeah, 22 billion, folks. Think about that, and think about when they're cutting, the guy who's making maybe $100K a year. How much money that's really saving. But for them, that's what they line must go up. So
yeah. And what's funny too is that a lot of the money that is quote unquote lost has come from them buying things. You know what I mean? It does factor in that way. Like when Microsoft is like, oh man, we made so much money last year. Yeah, because you're now factoring in Activision. But Xbox is going down. But hey, you bought all that debt. You know what I mean? You purchased all that stuff. We'll talk about Microsoft in depth. I have opinions in a little bit, but yeah, it's just wild that all of these C-suite executives at these companies had the same idea of just build up, and you'll just we'll just keep building. That's just how it works.
It really turned into an arms race. It's kind of like it. I think it was probably in the last 5, 6, maybe 7 years. It's been an arms race, And I know and we're getting more into a little bit of Xbox here, but just because I think Microsoft obviously is one of the big ones of doing this, buying as many companies as possible. Sony was also doing this, has been doing it for a little bit longer, but not as often. I felt like as Microsoft was
And not
doing
as
it all of a
big.
sudden, and not as big.
Well, no, do we want to talk about Microsoft? Let's hop
We're kind of
over.
leaning towards it, but I just wanted to say I remember us being on the record. I'm not trying to toot our own horns too much here, but I think we deserve some credit because we were one of the few people at least I know of. I'm not saying everyone was against, this opinion, but I feel like a lot of people were always celebrating when Microsoft would buy X company, like, oh, that's going to give so much money to these potential indie studios or these developers to make what they want, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of these ones that everyone celebrated are now just completely closed. So,
Double Fine, huge indie studio, makers of many crazy adventure games from back in the day and modern stuff. Psychonauts 2 was their big game that they came out a few years ago.
yeah,
Because Microsoft bought them, it afforded them the ability to not have to constantly make multiple small games a year to keep the lights on. They could, in finding publishers for that stuff, they could just work on Psychonauts 2, and release that. And it was in like this kind of now a little bit eerie interview series, documentary type series on YouTube. You can go ahead and check it out. I forget, I think, I don't know, Inside Psychonauts 2 or something like that. Where like, yeah, they got the Microsoft guys in there and they're saying like, how like Microsoft buying us is protecting us, but like we look at like where the axes dropped recently and I don't see them being safe at all. Now Microsoft, see, here's the deal. Microsoft is a gigantic company. They make more than computers. They make more than software. They make more than Xbox, right?
they're
Xbox is a
huge. I always
small.
forget how big they
They're
are.
like the biggest company. Um, Xbox is a small section. Microsoft makes most of their money off of their software, but also like their web infrastructure, their cloud serve. Azure makes more money hand over fist than Xbox ever did. They make most of their money off of that stuff, and Xbox is something where like almost like a city state where it's like run yourselves, figure out what you need to do. You guys are experts in your field. You've built this up. The Xbox in general came from Bill Gates freaking out because he saw when the PlayStation 2 was revealed, Sony's like, yeah, it can run Linux. So he's like, we need to have a computer in the living room. We can't let Sony take this. And that's where Xbox came from. But after that, it was like, you know, govern yourselves, figure out yourselves, and work through it. But as when there's losses and gains, like Microsoft's like, cool, we're still making a shit ton of money over here. But as soon as I don't know if it'd be Phil Spencer or Sarah Bond or Matt Booty or the three of them or how it worked, came up and said, Daddy Microsoft, we'd like to borrow $70 billion to buy and become the largest video game publisher in the world. All of a sudden, Microsoft is like, well, now we are interested and we need to be paying attention to you. Now, as what it seems like, you don't get to govern yourselves. We'll talk. We have a thing about Phil Spencer and all that, and I am, I have opinions on them. They are not innocent or anything like that, but in my opinion, most of the bad things, the layoffs and shutdowns, are from Satya Nadella and Microsoft C-suites being like, listen, you invested a lot of money. Think about this, $70 billion. How much does Call of Duty make in 1 year? Let's be generous and say $1 billion. You got 70 years worth of this to make up and break even?
That is their
Candy
cash
Crush makes
cow too.
probably
Like out of
Candy Crush
their
probably makes
guaranteed
close to
money.
that. Candy
Yeah.
Crush makes a lot of money. Okay, let's round that up to $1 billion as well. So 2. Okay, so we dropped it down 35 years. We got to be making money, and the easiest way for these people to make money is to cut costs, which means people. The saddest thing about the two, the 4 Microsoft Studio closures that were Bethesda based, 2 of them I understand was a mobile game, and one of them is now actually it's closed, but those people aren't laid off. They're now just absorbed into a support studio. But the 2 big ones, Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin, they got shut down for the stupidest of reasons. is not because a game did well. It's not because a game did poorly. It's because their games came out last year and they haven't really started anything. They're kind of pitching around ideas. So it's a lot easier to close down the studios that haven't started anything than closing down Machine Games, who's working on Indiana Jones, a Disney-funded game, or Arcane Leon, who's making Blade, a Disney-funded game. You're never going to close id because no one, like, I think they're smart enough to know we can't close Doom. That's like Nintendo saying bye-bye to Mario. It would be weird. I don't think it's beyond the possibility. And they're not going to close down
There's
Bethesda
rumors that
Game
there's a
Studios,
new
'cause
Doom.
they're not going to close down... Oh, yeah, that's the thing, too. They're not going to close down id right now because their new game's almost out. Let's talk in a year.
But I'm saying after that...
Right, let's talk in a year, and who knows?
See what the numbers are at, yeah.
that studio.
Yeah.
And like,
I'm just nervous
Elder
that they would
Scrolls
cut
6,
that.
they're not going to close. Like, they bought Bethesda for Elder Scrolls Fallout and Starfield. They bought that whole company just for those games. So they're not going to close those down. But like, Tango, like, yeah, you came out with a game. Sorry, we need to close you because Daddy Microsoft needs to recoup.
I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't even say Doom is guaranteed either, because you think about, I mean, just what it mentions in this article here, and this is one I saw a lot on Twitter, which was the quote from, Aaron Greenberg, who's head of Xbox Games Marketing. Granted, he's marketing dude, so he probably, just given things to say. But still, it is the irony here, which is he said, this is a year ago. Hi-Fi Rush was a breakout hit for us and our players in all our key measurements and expectations. We couldn't be happier with what the team at Tango Gameworks delivered with their surprise release. Yeah, it sold really well. Probably
I bought it on PlayStation. When that game came out, and Pentiment, which is by Obsidian, when those games came out on PlayStation, I bought them immediately. I haven't touched them yet. I plan to, but I support it. I bought them. Now, this quote is in response to rumors at the time that the game actually didn't sell very well and was actually kind of a failure inside of Microsoft. So this is a damage control statement. He didn't say it out of the blue. He came out to say, no, it's like he's defending the game, which is what he should do morally, be like, hey, these people worked on the game. We think it was great. Now, a year later, the parent company, Microsoft, doesn't really think that that matters. When you look at over the summer, Phil Spencer saying, past summer, Phil Spencer saying that we're not going to close Arcane Austin. That game had some problems, Redfall. A lot of that is Microsoft's fault in some terms. Not direct fault, but in the same way of like, oh man, we're all crunching at the studio because our boss is always here. The boss never said to crunch, but you look bad if you're not. You're thinking what... And it's obvious, Redfall is this live service multiplayer game because that's where they thought that they needed to go. It reminds me of, remember, sorry, this is another tangent here. When EA made all those Star Wars games, the Battlefront 2 came out. Star Wars Battlefront 2 by EA, and it had all these microtransactions, and people, it was a shit show, and people were hating it. And EA came out. I don't know who at EA, but EA came out and said, like, to defend themselves, said, no, we didn't force, I forget what the studio was, EA Motive. We didn't force them to DICE, it was DICE. We didn't force them to put all those microtransactions. That was their idea. They wanted that. Oh, okay, a lot of people are like, oh, okay, I guess that's what they really wanted to do. If they're idiots, that's the way they said that. But if you're a game studio owned by a publisher, you pitch games. Some of them get declined. So you're deciding to make a pitch for a game that you're going to get a yes for. So you make Redfall a live service multiplayer. Bethesda, Pete Hines, VP of whatever marketing, says that's a great idea. And he's pitching it to Microsoft. And they're like, yeah, sure. That's what you want to do. And also, that would make us a lot of money if it's a success. So we do like the idea.
Right.
But so they have all these failures. And like, oh yeah, we're going to keep the company around anyway. But that's
the logic behind of why they're buying up all these companies and developers, whatever, is, basically they're trying to buy the IP because of the hope you're going to get a Call of Duty, right? Everyone's trying to, I think, get the next Call of Duty, Fortnite, Minecraft, right? Those kind of big three where, like, they've been around for freaking Fortnite's gonna be 10 years old very soon here, which is crazy to say. But like, right, like you have
3 years,
a game where, we have all we have to do is not saying it's easy, but still easier than making a whole new game with a new engine and all that, where you can have, oh, we're just have a new map for 3 months, and then we can sell season whatever. Oh, we can put Peter Griffin in the game. Everyone loves Peter Griffin, right? Like, I know it's goofy, but like those kind of things. That's why Call of Duty still has they did the random Godzilla versus Kong thing that I played,
sure,
right? Where they had those random things to keep, if we can get 1% more people to come in for this month and buy these things. And that's the thing is people keep buying it, whether it's whales or a combination of the general public, that combination keeps doing that. And that's why they're responding this way, right? They're going to keep being like, you know what, I'm okay buying this for $1 billion because if one of these 5 studios is making something and one of them makes the next Call of Duty, that $1 billion is chump change to the $15 billion we might get in 10 years. That's the investment. Yeah. What their logic. I'm not saying I agree with this kind of thing because what's that cost is people who work on these games. What's that cost to me is just creativity. They're just looking for the big money bag that they're trying to get. They don't give a fuck about the creativeness of. Oh, that's a great idea. Like you said, Redfall is such a great idea. It's like, okay, but how much money is it going to make us? That's at the end of the day
Xbox
what is
heads do. But
I'm saying Microsoft though.
Yeah, not Microsoft. Yeah. And that's almost like that's like kind of the Game Pass kind of pitch of like, hey,
right. Here's
we
where
can
Game
put
Pass
all of
comes in.
these games on Game Pass, and smaller games, they weren't going to make us the money. They might not even be successful, but they get to survive and thrive on Game Pass because people are coming in to buy the big games. They can check out the small games. It makes their whole ecosystem seem vibrant. We have a lot of variety, for like the more discerning or hardcore gamer that wants to play a bunch of different things. But they found out that, hey, this is crazy math. This is insane math. This might blow your brain. Game Pass is available on Xbox consoles and PC, right?
Yeah.
And the traditional sense of selling a console is having exclusive games like a Gran Turismo or Uncharted or something. They're like, oh, I have to get that on PlayStation 3. I'll buy a PlayStation 3. Cool. So exclusive games sell the console. Even if Call of Duty is making more money and selling more copies than those exclusive games, in fact, your 30% off of Call of Duty sales on your console might make more than Uncharted does for your whole company. Still,
right.
There are more copies of Call of Duty being sold on PlayStation 3 because there are more PlayStation 3s out there. General thing. Because they were like poorly selling Xbox Series X and S units, I think the PlayStation 5 is close to 2.5 times as many out there as there are Xboxes, which is insane that they've lapped them and are continuing to go. Because of that, there aren't that many Xboxes out. The number of Game Pass users on Xbox are going to hit a ceiling, and they did. Okay, they make a big push in Xbox on PC. They really revived that. I think the app got better. I remember when I used Game Pass on PC, the app was like a black hole where your games just disappeared and they ate up your
When did you use it? Because I used it a little over a year ago.
3
year and a
years
half
ago.
I did like it. I'm not like I did like it. For me, it's just like I don't have the time to play everything. Like I'm not, like you said, the hardcore gamer where every night I'm sitting down on my computer to play a game. Most of the time I'm just playing Counter-Strike with my friends once a week, and maybe something once in a great while where we're doing Helldivers or something like that, right?
Or Pokemon like Fire Red on Twitch or on YouTube.com, blah blah blah. It's on a show.
But no, but like I get like what the aspect is, but like how many people out there, right, are like,
and that's slowed down.
The hardcore, it's slowed down because
on
people
PC
are like,
too. So
I think they missed
there aren't
it.
That many out there.
Maybe during like 2020, 2021, where the height of COVID, the pandemic, people were a lot like, that's where it probably peaked for them. And now that people are like, oh yeah, gaming's a hobby of mine, but it isn't like my top thing I'm gonna spend money and time on. All of a sudden, you start losing that thing. I think they thought it would be kind of like Netflix, where everyone's gonna. There's a difference between watching TV and playing a video game in the general public, right? Where it's most people are like, when they're turning on the TV, even if they're not even paying attention, they're just turning it on to have something on. You can't do that with a video game. You have to actually
you have to do
use a controller, do something, right? So it's not the same. Where I think on like paper, you're like, oh, that's such a great idea. This Game Pass where everyone can get as many games as possible.
And it's a great value for the consumer that is going to spend the time. It is a
but
great
for the
value
average
for
person, they're like, this is just another subscription service. I'd rather get Netflix
and those
where I can just
prices are bumping up and up.
Because more people in my life are probably talking about Stranger Things than the new Halo that's on Game Pass. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just, I don't know. It's just, it's cool on paper, but like, and I liked what I did of it, but it was just like, man, this is still $15 a month, and also my PC isn't the best PC, so it's like, am I even getting the full thing out of it?
Trying to push the cloud and blah blah blah. So here's the thing: Game Pass console hit a ceiling. Game Pass on PC is slowing down. They're not getting new subscribers nearly as much as they want. They had this lofty goal, and I think it was by 2025, like 100 million subscribers. I don't think they've cracked 30, so they're not going to hit that goal. And so that was when they made the statement of all first-party Microsoft, all Xbox games made by Microsoft, made by our partners, made by our studios that we own, will be day one on Game Pass. That lofty goal made back in 2017, which they've managed and kept up, was to continuously be like, hey, if you have an Xbox, you need to get Game Pass. It's a great value. Keep bumping up Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass. That was great when it was booming, and we could project 100 million and be like, actually, this might be obtainable. This might be the Netflix of video games. But now that it's slowing down, now there is an actual conversation inside the Satya Nadella C-suite of Microsoft being like, Call of Duty makes how much money and you want to give it away for free? Why? And so, like, there is, like, Call of Duty Black Ops 6
people are going to spend $70 and
might not be on Game Pass day one. I think their workaround that they're doing is, well, there's a higher tier of Game Pass that gets you Call of Duty, or whatever the current tier that gets you everything becomes that high tier where you pay more money, and there is a cheaper tier. Because, believe it or not, like, they got rid of Xbox Live Gold, like, the idea of paying just for the online multiplayer stuff, and they wrapped that into a cheaper tier of Game Pass that gets you some stuff. So there already is tiers, which is funny how, like, no one gets confused on that, but, like, PlayStation has 3 tiers of PlayStation Plus, and I feel like they're very obvious, but, like, people get... Their names are terrible for that, to be fair. PlayStation Essentials, Extra, and Premium. Granted, I definitely did the levels thing with my hand, but, like, Extra could seem like it could be the highest. Premium definitely does, but Essentials also could feel like... I don't know. I get it, whatever. And that's not making them money either. But think about it this way. You look at all the subscription stuff that we pay, and as a modern American or, you know, first world country kind of a citizen, you have your food app subscriptions, you have your entertainment subscription stuff. For the most part,
you have your Libsyn subscription.
Well, we do.
Everyone has a podcast.
Honestly, you said as a joke, but that number goes up and up. Every white dude has a podcast. For the food stuff in particular, Grubhub, DoorDash, they don't make money. The driver's losing out money. The restaurants are losing out money. But shit, we get a really great deal as a consumer because the value of delivery is so much higher than what we're actually paying for. You know what I mean? Even if we weren't paying for a subscription, we were just paying... If you're like, I'm just going to DoorDash something, I don't have a subscription, oh, it's $7 delivery or whatever, that price is a lot more. The value there is a lot more than what we're actually paying. And it's the same thing with, like, Netflix. They have to keep raising up their prices because they're not actually making hand over fist money profit. You know what I mean? There's a struggle to break even. But it's a great value. It's a great value for us to be like, there's so many movies. Instead of paying $15 to buy a movie, I pay $20 a month and I can watch as many. You know what I mean? Like, that is a great value. But long term, it's not. It's going to be worse and worse and worse. You're already seeing reports that, like, oh, Disney, Paramount, and Netflix might have a super bundle option for the three of them.
It's just fucking cable, bro. Like we're doing it.
Cable again. Right?
We're just doing it.
But the difference
then
is,
in 20 years from now, there's gonna be some new thing we haven't thought of yet, and everyone's gonna do the same shit. It's gonna be rinse and repeat.
The market's gonna be disrupted again. Okay, Amazon started off as an online bookstore and got marginal success off of that immediately, and then kind of grew and grew. They had enough money to eventually be like, there's a market we want to get into. We're going to throw money away. We're going to lose money until we are the dominant player, and then we raise all of our money back up. Amazon's done this countless times, over and over again. Amazon Prime Video made shit for them for years. But
and now they're charging $2.99 extra a month too on top of it. I don't pay that because the ads I've only noticed, by the way, are at the beginning, so I don't know. But I know what they're doing. Right now, they're gonna see how they can get it.
Right now,
what are they gonna get away with? That's how all this shit goes.
They're gonna see. They're boiling the frog 1 degree at a time. Here's the other thing too with video games. They're different from movies in this fashion. So a movie, let's say Netflix funds a movie, right? If they have a nice timetable, I think you're looking at a year and a half out, right? You write, you film it, you post-process all that stuff. It's out on Netflix. There's no distribution. It's just on Netflix's servers, right? Cool. Yeah. Even if it's a high-budget thing, the budget doesn't really even matter for this unless you're really practical effects heavy, which in Netflix's case you probably aren't. You're probably saving all that money. You're using the volume like Disney does with their Mandalorian stuff, whatever, which is just a green screen cube you stand in and an Unreal Engine flies around you. A video game that is high budget is now basically 5 years. Here's the key difference. You are a large corporation, Devin, and I'm not.
I'm Comcast.
I'm not an original. Yeah, so NBC. This is an original thought. I've seen a lot of people say this. It makes a lot of sense. This is my spin on this. So I don't think I'm extreme like genius for saying this. Other people have said this first. But you're a large corporation. You're like, all right,
NBC. Yep.
So and actually, yeah, that's a great because it's almost like saying Satya Nadella, Microsoft, and not Xbox. Because there are. We'll talk about Phil Spencer and all those people, but like those people I feel like do actually care about the culture of the video games and like the brand of Xbox and being a cool place that has a variety of games. Microsoft, Satya Nadella up here just wants money. So you're up there, you're Comcast, and you're thinking, okay, we're going to fund a video game. How much money we need to, let's just say it's $1 billion, right? A huge amount of money. Okay. Or 500 million, whatever, a very large amount of AAA budget money. The game comes out 5 years later. It breaks even after a year on the market, and now you're in your long-term stretch, and you're like, cool. In another year, we might make $100 million in profit over this 7-year investment. Or we could just throw this in a savings account and in 7 years make more money. Or so really, for these companies,
we can do that and also raise
even doesn't
prices
mean anything
for internet service.
Well, yes, breaking even isn't even considered okay. It's considered a failure to not even make back what you could make on interest on the money itself. Because that's how these large corporations think. It's like, we have money, we want to make our money grow. Okay, Making a movie, it can grow. Making a video game, it can grow. But just throwing it into a savings account, and obviously it's a corporation. Their interest is much different than you and I. Whether it's even offshore,
or we can cut 100 people off of it and put the money in its savings account. And now we've made double of what it would take to make, this niche IP sequel that like everyone's like the people who are really fans of it want it, right? And
Hellblade is a perfect example,
dude. I don't want to.
Let me give up my opinion.
I can't even get.
I think the game is cool. I know you played the first game. I own the first game. I never touched it. I'm gonna say something really mean. This is a compliment sandwich in reverse. So I really want you to have a positive impression, but I need to say this mean thing out. Ninja Theory isn't the big studio everyone thinks it is. They got gassed up when Microsoft bought it because it was an Xbox studio and Xbox fans, and I get it.
Yeah.
I played Heavenly Sword on PlayStation 3. It was close to launch. That game's terrible. I played their DMC when Capcom came out and said, do a reboot of Devil May Cry. I played DMC. That game's bad. I played Enslaved Odyssey to the West. They made that. That game's bad. They're a mediocre developer. They deserve to exist and they deserve to experiment. And on the PlayStation 4 era, they experimented. They made Hellblade. It was a AA game with AAA production values on a AA budget. They found a niche. It was successful. And from what I've heard, I haven't played that. From what I heard, for what it is, that game was good. Congrats.
Yeah. No,
Microsoft
I
buys
liked it
them.
a lot. Yeah.
Microsoft buys them, and now they gas them up. They because remember, a game came out between Hellblade 1 and 2 that they made. Do you know what it was? It was called Bleeding Edge. It was an Overwatch-style melee combat game that died on the grapevine as soon as it came out because it probably wasn't that great, because Microsoft didn't buy them for that. They bought them because they wanted God of War. They wanted 2018's God of War. This was the studio that was going to make that for them. So they get... Hellblade 2 is the first game they ever announced for this generation. That was the first thing. This was the first kind of next-gen game ever that was announced. Okay, cool.
And next gen's been here too,
well,
which is
yeah, for 4 years later. But that's not Ninja Theory's fault necessarily.
Oh no, not
or anything like
I'm
that.
not saying.
But
I'm saying that's the whole. That's the whole other thing we've talked about with like the
games
Game
are
Awards
expensive.
and
They
stuff,
take too many people, to
and
make
they announce
etc.
it way too early, in my opinion.
But Hellblade, grows and grows and grows in the minds of Xbox fans as going to be God of War. It's going to be a high fantasy, fantastical, melee combat game with gorgeous graphics. It's going to be cool. They have their own, Psychosis kind of angle with that. I'm not going to give my opinions on that because I haven't played that game. But cool. It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. And then there's reports a couple months ago, not necessarily bad reports for the game, but for optics. Oh, it's basically the same length as the first game, is the same kind of scope. It looks incredible, but it's not God of War. It's just Hellblade again, which is
I was gonna say I follow him. Yeah,
but it's not.
I was gonna say and I've been following him on Instagram, and I never thought, like, I get what you're saying. Well, yeah, next God of War. Like, I think in imagery, right? Because it's kind of loosely Nordic as well to some extent. There's some elements of that kind of. To me, it's more of a Nordic, but like has more of a filthiness to it, like a
blockbuster action combat game with monsters.
But I'm gonna say is I follow them. I follow their studio on Instagram, and like so for the last since I played Hellblade, because I've always thought it looked cool, and then when I finally played, I'm like, oh, I do like this a lot. And I've been following them on Instagram, and they do like once in a while like behind the scenes stuff of what they've been working on, and like, hey, here's them, and they show that there was a difference in studio space. I think that's cool that like they got a bigger room so they can do more kind of like Last of Us, right, where they have the big open room where they have all the dots on them and they're doing the thing. I guess in the first game they didn't have as big of a space and they were restricted in some ways,
right?
Something like that. But no, I've always liked what they're doing. I'm like, oh, cool. But like, yeah, when I heard that, I'm like, oh, that's fine to me, right? But like, if I was an Xbox gamer who's looking for God of War, yeah, I would be disappointed. And that's not fair to Ninja Theory for what's like you said,
Ninja Theory,
gassing them up and being like, hey, this is gonna be the next big game. It's like, hold on, we're just making the sequel.
That's Xbox's fault, straight up, because like they pitched this studio in this game like it was, Sony Santa Monica or even a Naughty Dog, and like, yes, on the graphics end, gorgeous game, on par with that stuff, but like, I've seen reviews up and down the spectrum here of like, and unfairly, because in some aspects you might deem it unfairly to the game, but it's all like the perspective we are thrusted to look at this game at. We are not looking at Hellblade 1 anymore. And, like, the reviews that said, like, there's not much to play. The puzzles are very simple. The combat is basically borderline, plays itself in an aspect. For that first game, that was fine, because it's an experience and whatever, right? But for this game, the way it's pitched, what it needs to be for Xbox as a brand to sell, to, like, be like, yes, we do make big games. It's not the same anymore. I've seen harsher reviews in a sense of like this game is not, there's nothing here. It's a beautiful movie that you play, and they mean that in a negative sense. Even though it is the same in that aspect as the first game, it's just now
that's what I liked about it too. Personally,
what we're expecting from it is different.
No,
not because of what they made before, but because of the company that bought them and how they've pitched them.
I'm just afraid. I'm afraid for him, and I'd be afraid if I was working there because of also what just happened. Not even 2 weeks before, where everyone Hi-Fi Rush was, which to them they've said critical success. At least Xbox.
Are they lying? Were they lying then, or are they lying now? You know.
Yeah, but I'm afraid it's like, oh, if I don't get X amount of Game Pass subscribers off this, because how many people are going to buy the actual game? They're pushing it for Game Pass, like you said.
Right.
You know, hey, you want to play Hellblade 2? You got to get Game Pass. And I thought about it recently of doing it, but I'm just like, I looked at the minimum requirements for the PC, and my PC's like right at the minimum. I'm like, I kind of want to just play it on PS5 if it does come to that. If it was on PS5, I would have pre-ordered it, got it day one, and played it probably this weekend and beat it because I know it's a short game. And that's what I like about it, because I was like, oh, cool. It's like you said, it's a movie that's 8 hours. Cool. That's right up my alley. That's nothing
wrong with what the game
and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
It's just, again, it's all this extra stuff around it and how it's pitched.
Yeah.
Like, if Naughty Dog came out with an 8-hour game that was like that, people would be pissed, because that's not what that studio does. You know what I mean?
Right.
If the next God of War was 6 hours and had very simple combat, it would be a letdown, because that's not what we're pitched this company makes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ninja
so I just feel bad for them, because I just feel like they just get bought. They bought up to do this. I'm just worried that they're going to be gone, and that's not fair.
Here's the thing. First off, did you see on Twitter? I found it very funny, almost as if they were trying to get ahead of it. Before the game came out, they did a black text, and it was very much like, we poured so much into this, and I believe all of that, and good for them. I have no real interest in playing the game, really, but like don't get me wrong, I don't want to be...
the passion that they're putting into the work putting into it. Yeah,
it read like an obituary.
It did.
I'm gonna be real. It read like an obituary, like, hey, we're gone. Now they're already working on their next game, so we are told. I think Microsoft is again, there's a difference between, Phil Spencer, and Sarah Bond and Matt Booty and the Microsoft execs. I think, when Satya Nadella was like, cut costs, cut studios. You bought too many, we can't afford to run them all. I think, hand over fist, or hands on his knees, or on his knees, Phil Spencer would be crawling and be like, it's going to look really bad if we just close the studio right now. I know that game is not going to be as successful as Microsoft wants or needs. It might actually be lower than their expectations are. I'm going to be honest. It might be.
Well, if they want to ship it to PS5, that'll help. God.
Well, that is apparently going to happen. Well, it's not public or anything like that. But that's the other thing, too. Like, let's talk about that stuff. Microsoft buys Bethesda mainly for exclusives. That is basically it. They bought it because they wanted Starfield to be exclusive. They wanted Machine Games' next game to be exclusive. All this to be exclusive.
Elder Scrolls probably down the line, too.
And if you remember, like a month before that, Sony revealed PlayStation 5 and their big PlayStation press conference thing, and Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, 2 Bethesda published games, exclusive to PlayStation for a year. They were still in negotiations for the same thing for Starfield for PlayStation 5. And Xbox came in and bought them, because they were like, we need to have exclusives. and Bethesda as a studio, they make what you would look at as first-party PlayStation games anyway. Games that aren't going to make a whole lot of money, but they're cool. They have a cool thing going for them. They have a unique, like, immersive sims don't make a lot of money. I loved Prey 2017.
They have a reputation.
And they're cool. And, like, obviously, the whole company is on the back of Skyrim and Fallout 3. And Doom 2016 to an extent now. But, like, it's almost like, the smaller Tango Gameworks gets to survive because of the big brothers around them. Evil Within made jack shit for money.
I was going to say, with I was gonna say with Skyrim, just echoing that, just because everyone I know who like knows me or maybe like know video games, like they don't play many games, but like they know fucking Skyrim or Fallout, and it's just like you're right, like it's just like they have a reputation,
just like
hey,
they know
we do these
Grand Theft
immersive
Auto.
sims, we make these immersive sims / RPG whatever games that are loved. My dad still plays Skyrim here and there on his PS3 in his house. Everyone,
Like
he always tells me,
goddamn man, he does.
of a new thing that he finds, and I'm like, it's awesome. Like, you know, and it's a freaking 20-year-old game. It might as well be 20 years old. It feels like it at this point. You know,
they make the type of games that Sony makes, in a sense of like, hey, you came here, like they're perfect first party thing. So it makes sense that Microsoft bought them for that. Cool, they bought them. All their games are exclusive. Besides the ones that are already out, like they're not gonna like yank Fallout 76 or they're off PlayStation Store or anything like that. They bought Activision. They can't afford to make them exclusive, and legally they can't make Call of Duty exclusive for at least 10 years. Okay, so all that stuff is also going to be on PlayStation. You got people like Todd Howard. Obviously, we know who Todd Howard is, guy in charge of Bethesda Game Studios, Fallout, Elder Scrolls. He's the guy. He's also the producer on Machine Games' Indiana Jones game, by the way, because he loves Indiana Jones. And you got Pete Hines, VP of Marketing at Bethesda. He left the company. I think he retired, to be fair. But I think he saw the writing on the wall like this. I don't want to be a part of... I mean, imagine, like, he would probably be, like, real upset. Like, I have to come out and talk about how it's actually good for the company that we closed down companies I saw rise. Like,
we laid off 1,000 people.
Right?
It's good, guys.
I guess he got out at a good time. But you got the internal memos. This would happen during the FTC versus Microsoft lawsuit stuff. Being like, why the hell are our games exclusive and Activision's doesn't have to be? We're just losing money. Like, our games are going to be performing worse because of that. And so there's lots of turmoil up in there. But Microsoft, that Satya Nadella C-suite type of executive, all those, and the investors specifically, don't necessarily see all of the kind of smaller game studios that they own as being worthwhile when Call of Duty makes a shit ton of money, and really, they just get a couple types of studios that make games that can sell close to Call of Duty. That's all they want and need, and, they spent $70 billion to buy Activision Blizzard King. Full name of that company. Ugh. With that, they bought all of the salaries. They bought all of the debts that those companies might owe to banks. They also bought all of the leases that they now owe for all of the properties that these studios are on. All that stuff costs them a lot of money. So they're calculating how much they can save by... If they close the studio, they save a lot of money. It's an immoral thing to do, in my personal opinion. But, like, on paper, for them, that's how they can make back their money quickly. Because, again, 35 years of $2 billion sales of Call of Duty and Candy Crush, and to break even, not going to be worth it. Who knows what the video game landscape's going to be in that amount of time. And, hey, again, we could just invest this money into things that give us a lot more money short term. It might be it's a better thing for them, for their money.
And like I said, when they bought all these studios initially, they're going to give them what feels like one chance to be like, okay, make us the next Call of Duty, and then you'll stay.
Yeah,
and that'll be your thing.
Horrifying.
Yeah, that's why. And
do you even want to make Call of Duty? You know what I mean?
I'm hoping. I don't want to say I'm glad because it's not good news, but I'm just like I'm hoping people start seeing this shit. Is that every time these, and this isn't just gaming in general. This is how other companies work, or they'll buy all these other companies, keep what they want to keep at the end of the day, and then get the money they need to get out and move on to the next target. It's just, and I got so frustrated every time we would cover this topic, and people would be like, "No, this is great," and then here we are. It's like
their own gamble isn't working. Like, their own gamble of buying companies isn't working, and now we're starting to see that proof.
But who takes the most hit though? It's the people who get laid off, people who were like making a game that they're really or like you said, Indiana Jones, right, or whatever. Like, they're making something they're really interested in. Nope, never mind. You need to work on Call of Duty, or you're gone. Basically, it's just like, it's just
right.
I don't know. I'm just getting really frustrated with it. Where
and like the
it's
people
hard
that
to
are
have...
benefiting they're not even gambling their own money. I got an email from Red Lobster last week.
Oh yeah,
that was
yeah.
like, hey, we're filing for bankruptcy, blah 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 blah. And I know people are like, oh, it's the endless shrimp. They just no. It's because investors came in, gambled the company's money away for their benefit. They're getting a paycheck. The same thing that happened to Toys R Us. Investors come in, they all collectively agree to bet wild on something. Their own money isn't on the line. Their own money is not on the line. And they basically get to close a company for a gigantic paycheck. Because long term, Red Lobster is not going to make that money back. Long term, Toys R Us, I mean, everyone's shopping on Amazon, physical stores, Let's cut them off now and make a paycheck on the way out. That's the fear that, I have with some of this stuff. Like, Microsoft could easily be like, hey, Bethesda is only Bethesda Game Softworks and id. The other ones are gone now. They could also be like Activision. Granted, Activision, before being bought, basically every studio was just Call of Duty, but like, do we need all of these studios to make Call of Duty? Do Neversoft, makers of Tony Hawk,
10,000
years
people
ago became a Call of Duty support studio. They might have got absorbed. Do we really need all of these? What if we just have 3? Which I guess
that's what I was saying. Let's say there's 10,000 people, 10,000 people working on Call of Duty. They're gonna be like, can we narrow that down to 700? We don't really give a shit if the product's gonna hurt because of that, because people are still gonna buy Call of Duty. And if there is anyone complaining about it, we'll just maybe hire people then if we have to. It's just like it's just a constant response to the consumer in a not a large scale, but just like, hey, if people are still buying it, we're not going to react any differently.
Yeah.
That's the only time things change under capitalism is when you
does
have people not buying it, or they just close it. Okay, Call of Duty's done. That might happen one day where they're like, no one's buying Call of Duty as much as we want. All right, Call of Duty's over.
Yeah.
End of an era.
Always come back one year. Because here's the thing, like, despite all of that, Call of Duty has an exceptionally high bar of quality in the games that do come out. They come out every single year. Even though, like, internally we hear things about being changed around, and Modern Warfare 3's, release last year was actually supposed to be DLC for Modern Warfare 2, but Bobby Kotick said, no, we need to have a $60 video game out. It's optics. That's all that mattered. That's the first kind of blunder that they've had, but Black Ops 6 has been in development for years, and they have enough going where they can make a high-quality game come out every single year, high production values, and it looks like it's worth the money, and it probably is worth the money as a consumer to buy it, you know what I mean, but they also
it's just funny when I see people like, I know like gamers, capital G gamers, make fun of the COD / NBA 2K Madden heads that exist. There's a lot of those people out there I know who like only buy COD and sports games, which is fine, whatever. Like, I get they're fun. I like to play COD once every blue moon and be like, yeah, this game still holds up. Like, I really did like Warzone. Out of the battle royales that I played, Warzone's probably up there for me. I had a lot of fun with it. Was I good at it? No, because everyone else plays a lot of Call of Duty more than me. But what I was going to say is it's they keep buying it, though. It's funny. I'll see those people complain like, oh, Madden's the same shit every year. It's like, yeah, but you guys keep buying it.
You
like,
buy it. Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, they add this one, like kind of like iPhone now, Apple, right? Where it's like they add like a new gimmick or new game mode that like, fuck yeah, I'll get it. And then game mode's all right, but it's just like, was it worth the change in the roster update for the teams?
Right. I don't play sports games, so I don't even really know what that experience is like. But
from my knowledge, it's always because I will play a Madden every like 7 years. I'll get like one on sale from last year or something once in a great while and mess with it. I think the last one I did play though was Madden. So it's been a while now. I was gonna say Madden 2018. I think is the last one I played, and I'm just like, wow, it doesn't feel too different from the ones I played in 2012. It's just like the graphics are a little bit better, or there's new mechanics in certain game modes that are like, quality of life update kind of thing. So it's there. And of course the rosters are the most up to date that they can be before they're like, nope, you got to buy the new one if you want to play as Tom Brady as a Buccaneer and not a Patriot or whatever, like those kind of things. Or, you want Lamar Jackson. All right, well, you got to get at least Madden 2022 or whatever, or whatever player, is popular at the time.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah, and there's obviously microtransactions up the wazoo in those types of games as well. NBA,
there's the
FIFA. especially
there's like the whole card game kind of
EAFC.
thing to it. Yeah, that you buy packs, you get cards, and then you can build
Insane.
a team.
My ultimate
I did a little
team.
bit of it. I did a little bit. It was kind of fun to do. I get like why it can be addicting, but I was like, oh, I'm not spending money on this though. Like, I'm good, thank you. I already spent $30 on this game on sale.
And like, a Game Pass tier that has Call of Duty in it, that has Warzone in it, that gets you all of the Warzone. Warzone will have those insane microtransactions where it's like King Kong's glove, give me $80 for that.
I did get like a Godzilla
like
skin for like $15, and I'm like, whatever. Like,
it's okay to
I want
support
more
a video game that you like. By the way,
Yeah.
like you don't fighting.
I just never have played it since, so I'm kind of like gypped a little bit, but it's okay.
Yeah,
but
I get it. Fighting like this giant machine doesn't necessarily need to be not supporting the video game itself. There's just different ways that we need to go about it, but Microsoft is going to be in a strange couple of years. When I was talking about like, oh, Bethesda's games are exclusive to Xbox, but Activision's aren't, blah 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 blah. There is a push and a pull going on internally. We've heard reports of Starfield is not going to be on PlayStation. Like, we can't. That's our red line. But games like Obsidian's Grounded and Rare's Sea of Thieves, these live service things, well, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to put them. They're past. It's been years, and it's a multiplayer thing. Cool. Smaller games like Obsidian's Pentiment, which I bought on PlayStation, and Hi-Fi Rush, even though it was actually a AAA game in the back end, they pitched it as a $30 game that was shadow dropped, and to Microsoft's marketing, it's a small game. On PlayStation, I bought both of those games. But like, okay, it makes sense here and there. But internally, there is that questioning from Satya Nadella's C-suite executives of, but why can't everything be everywhere? We spent a lot of money on this. Why are we, handicapping our income off of this, our return on this investment? Like, Starfield will be on PlayStation in a year. I guarantee it. By the time they've done with because they have a big expansion coming out, by the time they've kind of wrapped up development, all that stuff, it'll come to PlayStation. Indiana Jones and Blade, those are definitely coming to PlayStation because Disney takes a huge chunk off of those games. There was that Insomniac leak last year. We don't even get into specifics, but like the amount of money Disney took off of the profits of Spider-Man 2. That game, even though that game sold millions of copies, broke even.
Fucking Disney, man, dude.
Because Disney has a large chunk. I mean, and it's fair to assume, hey, you're licensing this. Like, if I was Sony, PlayStation, I'd be like, hey, all of your other Marvel licenses don't seem to be making that much money. They all seem to be kind of failures in some sense, and we're not. So maybe we get a better deal. In our favor. Let's be real here. You could either make less money or, but whatever. So yeah, Blade and Indiana Jones are definitely coming to PlayStation. Elder Scrolls 6, that's all hyped up like crazy.
I just wonder.
Game, that's all hyped up crazy. Satya Nintendo's like, why would we not put this on PlayStation and Nintendo if we can and make that money? So the Xbox brand is gonna metamorphize into something different.
And Gears of War is even rumored. Gears of War is
a collection
ultimate collection kind of thing.
If a Gears of War collection comes out on PlayStation 5, I will buy that. I never played any of those games. I almost did when I had PC Game Pass. I downloaded fucking all of them. I never touched them. I'd get those. That'd be fun to romp through those games. There's a market beyond the console borders. It's the same thing out Helldivers.
The console
Helldivers
borders.
2. Helldivers 2. Best-selling PlayStation game. Because of PC. Because of PC. Right?
If you take away PC, GameStop probably would have been a hit, but not in the level of.
So what I will say, from what I've heard, both the console version of Helldivers 2 on PlayStation 5 and the PC version, on their own, still the best-selling game of the year so far. So it is still a huge success. But combined, because they're two different markets, the people coming home to play a game on their PC are different than people playing on console. it's not even like a hobbyist thing of like PC is more expensive, better graphics, therefore the more discerning gamer goes there. It's not even that. I know PC gamers want to say that is, but it's just two different markets completely. I'm in both markets. I enjoy both aspects. I will play multiplayer shooters on PC, hands down. The support for that is much better than on a console. I can talk to you like we are doing right now over Discord. It's so much easier than trying to do something like that on PlayStation or Xbox or Nintendo, God forbid. That's just where I am for that stuff. But like, yeah, I want to play all of my big blockbuster games on console. The experience there is just much different.
I want to play Last of Us. I want to play the. That's why I want to play Hellblade on there, because I'm like, at least I know it's going to be polished, and I won't have to mess with settings and worry about, oh, my graphics card can only do this game at this much FPS. Like, yeah, if I had the nicest rig, I would have got Game Pass and just probably played it. But it's just like, I don't play enough stuff on PC.
On all that stuff, and
and I just,
if you're into it, that's your market. You're already in that market. And like these companies are slowly realizing,
as long as Counter-Strike works for me on my PC, that's all that really matters.
Because that game's a potato. It's you're gonna be good for years. But PlayStation is in, I think, a bit of a smart thing. Like Helldivers aside, I'll be like, okay, Spider-Man 2 comes out on PlayStation 5, it will sell consoles, because that's what we need these games to do, is to sell consoles. Because then guess what? People are playing on PlayStation, they're going to be playing Call of Duty and FIFA and NBA, and all their microtransactions give us 30% of a cut. We're making a lot of money off of that, but we need people on the console to do that. A couple years on there, cool, now we sell it on Steam. They bought Nixies, which is, from what I've been told, one of, if not the best PC porting studios ever in modern times. They bought them to port all their games to PC, and they've been doing that very successfully. These PlayStation games, a couple years later, obviously, come to PC, and their launches are successfully or are significantly in a better shape and quality than your modern AAA game that comes out PC day in, day one, because they have a company spending 8 months porting the game, and they know their shit, and it comes out, and like, sales aside, just quality of it, they have a good reputation. You know what I mean?
And I was to say sales, and if you are counting sales, like I remember when God of War came to Steam, and I saw it for the first time, and it was like top 5 selling for like a month.
Because it was an oddity number 1, like a PlayStation game on PC. But then also, it's a high quality game off the bat. Like, it works. Yeah. It works. So
in that,
it's a good strategy they're doing.
So people are like, I will get it. I don't have a PlayStation. I do want to play God of War. So I remember streamers starting to play it for the first time, and I'm like, cool, that's great. I'm glad people.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask this earlier, and I think you kind of answered it for me, where I was like, in terms of like, I know we said the console war is dead, but like there is still like the gamers being like Xbox, PlayStation, at this point to this day, right? And I feel like the last couple of weeks it's been like, oh, Xbox dead in the water, PlayStation won the war kind of thing, right? But to me, I was like, okay, would it be a PR, a war loss?
I just want to say real quick, Xbox lost the war, PlayStation won the war, but Nintendo's already sitting on the throne. They've been there this whole time. But yeah, go on.
Nintendo's like Switzerland for me, like in turn, like they just don't get involved too often, and they kind of just do their thing, and everyone likes them. Sure. You know what I mean? They don't really know.
No one hates Nintendo.
Yeah. But I was gonna say is, in terms of like the console war PR, right? Xbox is looking really bad lately. Would it look worse if they do announce, like, let's say next week, Hellblade 2, fuck it, is coming to PlayStation end of the year? Does that hurt them? I think it does, but so it's weird for PlayStation. It doesn't, though. When PlayStation waits a couple years and then drops it on Steam, it's not seen as a loss. It's seen
as
a
cool thing.
They like the gamers. It's interesting how the marketing for Xbox has been the last couple years has been about, we are pro gamer. We care about the games, and like how much I believe in that. Personally, I don't as much, but on the surface, right? Like they have the Game Pass. They are trying to push this.
Yeah.
Hey, that we care about the games. We want you to be able to play as many games as possible at the most affordable price, whatever, and also help the developers make what they want. That is the Eden in their head of like what they're trying to create, right?
Yeah.
But when they break and let the games go to PlayStation, it's almost seen as a loss on a PR front. It's so interesting
Here's the
when
thing.
that
Here's
the
my
logic
thoughts.
shouldn't be that. You know what I mean? When they're
Right.
saying we are like, no, it's good that we're letting it go because it means it's pro games. You know, it's
There's
just
a
funny
key
to me.
aspect on this, and it's on screen right now. Is that guy up there, Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, and Matt Booty? They are the faces of the Xbox brand. They are
Hmm.
out there making these statements about how they want to make the best possible thing for the Xbox gamer. They're doing this. They're making lofty promises. They're making make good niceties. Hey, your Xbox One controller, it will work on Xbox Series X for Xbox Series X games. That type of stuff. They're like, PlayStation doesn't do that. For PlayStation 5 in this generation, they kind of had a nice split. They stopped having people come out and being a face of PlayStation. Yes, you had your Jim Ryans every once a year when there's a PlayStation showcase. He's out there to say, hey, we're very proud of PlayStation. These games are great. Take a look. But he's not out there giving interviews as much as Phil Spencer is, Sarah Bond is, or Matt Booty is. And Nintendo doesn't do that shit at all. Miyamoto, at the best, is you'll get a tweet from Nintendo saying, "This is Shigeru Miyamoto. I love the Mario movie. Please go watch it." That's about
Or
it.
he's on a Nintendo Direct once in a
But
while.
even
And just
then,
is like,
they've lowered those Nintendo Directs to basically being a voiceover, the
yeah,
voiceover guy, and that's about it, right? IG Noob will come out to announce Zelda because it's momentous, but he's not talking about how the value of the Nintendo gamer is great and strong and that we're a family. They're not doing any of that stuff. They're proud of the things they made, but they're not necessarily talking about building this large community like Xbox has needed to do. Here's the downfall of the Xbox. There's multiple stages to this. I'm going to throw this out there. Number one, because they came out a generation after PlayStation did, they cannot do the naming structure of Xbox 1, 2, 3, and 4 because they're always a number behind PlayStation. So they need to come up with different names. So off the bat, every single generation is almost like a fresh start and an identity to them. PlayStation 4 was huge because it was PlayStation 4. PlayStation 5, you know what it is. It's the next big PlayStation. They're not having to reinvent what they do every single time like Xbox has to. Xbox 360, hugely successful because their branding, their marketing, and their whole pitch for the console was Xbox Live. Playing games online, playing games with friends. Even though more PlayStation 3s were sold by the end of the day, the general audience think Xbox 360 won because more people were playing Call of Duty on Xbox 360. They were playing all these multiplayer games on Xbox 360 because Xbox Live was better than PlayStation Network. I think it probably is true, but people are just saying that because they say it, not because of any
yeah.
metrics, right? Towards the last half of the Xbox 360, Xbox, they're getting like, oh, we need to branch out, we need to start doing more cool stuff. They come out with Kinect. Kinect, I think even still, might just be the only video game accessory that is successful that also require that games also require it. Like there are games that require Kinect. There are games that require PlayStation Move wands. There are games that require
Nintendo Switch.
the PlayStation VR helmet, right?
Yeah.
The Kinect on the Xbox 360 through that scope was the only one where it's like, wow, they sold a lot of these. Xbox One comes around, and hey, you know what? It has its own Kinect in it, and our guys are like, we need to expand the living room. It's not just video games anymore. TV, Call of Duty.
We're getting in the
sports.
kitchen.
No, but you know what I mean. Like their focus wasn't on video games hardcore, but PlayStation 4 was. So PlayStation 4 outsold it like crazy, 3-1 even. Because of that, and this is something Phil Spencer has publicly said, he's admitted this. They kind of lost the console war there because that was the generation. PlayStation 4 and Xbox One was the generation of digital games really being the majority, being like a strong thing. I would never go and be an Xbox gamer, like, oh, I'm going to play all my games on Xbox, because I have hundreds of games I bought on PlayStation Network. So it would take my account being deleted for me to, like, consider just abandoning PlayStation going to Xbox. And they know this. Like, they know that they kind of basically lost a huge front by, like, by succeeding.
I always visualize, like, Europe for whatever, because it's just World War II or whatever.
All the
And
arrows.
Yeah, and I just imagine like Sony's like, oh no, they've
Yeah, yeah.
broken into France or
The
whatever.
digital
Uh,
marketplace, that country. Yeah, I mean, like, but that's real. Like, there's just going to be people that will inherently not go to Xbox because of that, and then vice versa. But the vice versa isn't as strong as the
the
versa
vice
vice or
versa.
whatever.
I mean, there my cut. I know once again I shouldn't speak from a personal experience to say for everybody, but I just want to share it because I think it's uh important to the sense of what you're saying, where like the Xbox I think stronghold isn't as in terms of like the player base, the diehards who are this is my brand, this is my gaming console, right? Even like people like my cousin who they were always the Xbox like group in our family. Like I had the PlayStation, never had an Xbox. One, because my parents probably couldn't afford it. I mostly got hand-me-downs from my uncle in terms of consoles a couple years later. But yeah, like he always had Xbox. I was always like jealous. I was like, oh, he has the Xbox. He gets to play Halo. Halo looks so cool. Or like he gets to play Gears of War. That looks so cool. Oh, he gets Rock Band. I have Guitar Hero, but Rock Band's all the instruments. I was always kind of
Sure.
jealous growing up a little bit of like, or I would go to his house and I just watch him play Halo because I was like, this looks so cool, like visually, like something different from what I would see on PlayStation, at least what I had access to. But
In the
then like,
360 era.
but then once, but yeah, but after the Xbox 360 era, all of a sudden everyone's like, nah, I kind of want a PS4 because Last of Us, or I kind of want a PS4 because of, uh, God of War eventually, and all these other like later end
It just
PS4.
seems like
Everyone I knew
yeah.
who was like Xbox, but like my cousin was the biggest example I could think of. Like a lot of people I knew who were like Xbox kids, all of a sudden like, well, no, I got PlayStation because of MLB The Show, even like those kind
Yeah.
of things. Where,
Yeah.
these exclusives, like I think Sony picked the right time to do exclusives, and Xbox was so late to the game. That's kind of what I'm feeling like these last 10 years have shown us. Xbox is trying to get in the exclusive game, but it's a
Yes.
little too late.
Yep.
Where everyone's like, I hate exclusives now, and now Sony's even fallen back a little bit on it. Where yeah, they'll let it come on Steam 2-3 years later and do it right, and they're okay with that. They've accepted that. They've kind of found the balance. When Xbox, I think they're trying to do 2015 in 2020,
Because they also
and
did
it's
all games
just
on Xbox and PC day and date as well, so they
yeah,
don't even get that like later bump. But yeah, so like what you're saying, like PlayStation 4 kind of usurped Xbox 360 in terms of the larger population's perspective. Xbox One didn't really have that many exclusives planned. They canceled a bunch. Um, and so in that latter half of the Xbox One, they're like, all right, we need to be PlayStation in the sense of we need a lot of studios. Like they didn't really own that many studios. We need a lot of exclusive games to sell our freaking consoles. And so 2017 is when they made the big initiative where they bought Ninja Theory and Obsidian and all this and that, all these games studios, and then they buy Bethesda, and then they buy Activision. Now we're at where we're at, but like they bought all this stuff because they needed to have exclusive games to make the value proposition of buying an Xbox in general seem like a no-brainer because that's already what PlayStation is. But now, because they've gone too far and they bought Activision, Microsoft is like, no, you need to have everything everywhere so that we can make our money back, let alone profit off of this and become the large video game publisher you guys claim you want to be. And so to answer your question you asked, I feel like 20 minutes ago, because we've been going on and on about this stuff. How does the perspective on it when Xbox puts things everywhere versus PlayStation puts things on PC? The difference is because of how they've positioned themselves to their fans. Xbox has fans, obviously, and those fans have been treated to Phil Spencer talking directly to them as if he's one of them. He'll show like his yearly hours on Xbox, and he puts probably more hours into video games than I do. He might. He puts a
but guess
lot.
who's getting? But he's getting paid a lot though.
Well, yeah, sure, but like besides all that,
That's not fair.
They're talking directly to their fans in ways where they really want to please
Yeah,
their fans. Where the PlayStation thing is like, you want this? Look how cool this is. I do want that. That's a different relationship that they have going on. So it hurts a hell of a lot more for the Xbox gamer to finally get an Xbox Series X exclusive game that's AAA with Starfield, and then it didn't really do all that well. It's not that great of a game, supposedly. I don't know. Our friend David loves it, and I believe him that he loves it, and I'm sure it's a great game, but it wasn't what was promised to be in terms of the next evolution of those types of games.
I feel like it came and went
blah, blah, blah.
for me. Like
it came
like
and
what
went.
I usually
And
what
hey,
I
guess
usually
what?
see on my Twitter and stuff of people being like, for other games compared to other games, we're like, wow, Helldivers is so great. Just an example. Or
Yeah.
this one, the Sony exclusive is so great. Yep, great. Like haven't heard like when I feel like
Yeah.
Starfield came and people
And
were
hey,
like,
it
oh,
came
this
and went
game's
because
goofy,
it wasn't on PlayStation,
but like,
and there's a lot less people that could buy it. And I feel like Microsoft sees it and are like, we need to put this on PlayStation. We put these games on PlayStation, and when we finally get an Xbox console brand like synergy going on with like exclusive games coming out, excuse me, they make you feel good. Like as an Xbox gamer, I feel proud to have purchased the Xbox. I love this. This is cool. I'm getting exclusive games for my choice. I chose this. I'm being rewarded by cool shit. And now I'm being told that all this stuff is going on PlayStation and Nintendo.
yeah.
Like that's what they're basically being told. That's what they feel like they're being told, and that's what's eventually going to happen, probably. I don't blame them for being like let the fuck down. I will say this, when Microsoft bought all those studios in 2017, slowly into 2018, into 2019, when they bought Obsidian, I was disappointed. And when they showed off Avowed, I'm because, they made The Outer Worlds. There's The Outer Wilds, and there's The Outer Worlds. Those are two different games. Obsidian made The Outer Worlds, which is like, they made Fallout New Vegas back in the day. This is their kind of Fallout game. It's a spacey kind of game, but it's like they're kind of.
I did remember seeing it, and that was on my list
cool.
of like,
and it's on my list of games to buy eventually if I feel like it. And Obsidian's Avowed is like their Elder Scrolls. I'm like, man, it's gonna be on Xbox. And hey, guess what? What Microsoft wants is for me right then and there to be like, I guess I'll have to buy an Xbox to play it. When in reality, I said I guess I just don't get to play it. Because I'm already locked in. I'm not gonna go buy an Xbox for all that stuff. That's a lot of money for just that for one game.
I'm just thinking,
one game for Star. They wanted people to buy Xboxes for Xboxes for Starfield. That didn't happen.
Yeah,
it didn't happen.
Because I'm thinking of like two like orbs, right? If one's representing PlayStation, one's representing Xbox. I feel like after PS4, or like even halfway through PS4, the Xbox orb got smaller in terms of people who've owned Xbox and the PlayStation orb. And then when PS5 came, this orb didn't change because people are like, no, I'm gonna get God of War Ragnarok. I'm gonna get all these. I'm gonna get Demon Souls. Oh, I heard that's good. I'm gonna get that.
Spider-Man.
All these other things. All these big ones that people like. Okay, this is only getting bigger now. And like Xbox, like you said, is trying to do Starfield or whatever. Be like, oh well, if we can just suck a couple people, kind of break with us, break from Sony, and like they'll get an Xbox just for Starfield. But then if they really are just banking on like Starfield being like the best game of all time, and then like you're never gonna win that. Like
no,
because even if you do make, let's say, their version of Last of Us, how many people are gonna buy an Xbox at this point when a gaming is more expensive than it's ever been? It feels like in a long time. If people are gonna really buy a $500 console or whatever, how much it is now, to go play the Xbox equivalent of that, I don't think so. That's not fair. Even if that's not
the biggest
fair,
thing ever. They bought it. It's Call of Duty, and their bosses are telling them, no, you can't have that be exclusive. And the law is also telling them, no, you can't have that be exclusive.
Yeah.
But like, if they were successful in buying Activision and not having to make them multi-platform, like the Xbox people, like Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, Matt Booty, then yes, that would work. People would leave PlayStation to go buy Xbox or just thrive in both, which is what they think some people do. I don't see it as that. That's not that common. There are not people that are in both ecosystems, like and like are A-okay.
Unless you're like,
you need to have a lot of money.
G gamer and have a lot of money.
But like, listen, I like PlayStation trophies, and so I want to play these games. I just wouldn't play them on Xbox just because like I want to have this other number go up on this console instead. But if I was an Xbox achievement hunter dude, it would be the same thing and opposite, But like, yeah, people would buy Xboxes for Call of Duty, but they can't, or at least they don't have to, rather, because Xbox can't have that be exclusive. That is the sole reason they bought Activision, was Call of Duty, and they're basically just being its new caretaker. They're making the money, but they need to make a lot of that money back soon in order to be that end goal of like Call of Duty just exists and we're just skimming money off the top as free profit. The machine is still working and we're just skimming the money off the top. That's not going to happen for 30 years unless they make giant changes, which is what Microsoft
I was gonna
wants them
say,
to do.
I think we're getting to like the precipice of this conversation, and to me are we at a? I go both ways on this. Nice. I was gonna say, are we? Is this a turning point, like a big turning point in the quote unquote console war / gaming history? I guess more broadly. I feel like we, at one hand, I feel like we are, because I think this is the repercussions from 2017, which was I think the start of a turning point, and this is the ending into a new one, which is a world in which maybe. I'm saying like maybe not now, like right next year and whatnot, but maybe in the next 10 years, is there an Xbox?
Yeah, it'll be a brand.
But I'm saying like, will it just be a Game Pass that you can get for Sony?
They're still going to make hardware. But here's the
my
thing.
question. I want to know your thoughts
about the
on
Xbox.
that. Yeah.
Here's the big change about the Xbox, and this is already being rumored and talked about. There was that fake rumor that Microsoft was going to buy Valve for $16 billion. Sorry, that's not going to happen. That was a lie. But that is related to another rumor that okay, so you're Microsoft, right? And you have Xbox. Xbox is very different from your other ventures in the tech and gadget space, where like you guys sell computers, you sell your own branded computers. And then you license off Windows to Dell, HP, I don't know how many others are out there, and they make a Windows computer, right? And then you obviously also just sell Windows directly to consumers if they need to buy it and all those services. So like the PC is a very open platform that they are a caretaker of, that they profit off of. Xbox is a walled garden that they profit a lot off of. But they could profit more off of if they let other players in. I do firmly suspect you will see Steam as an option on the next Xbox. I do suspect you will be seeing other storefronts on the next Xbox. Here's the thing. Right now, in the tech space, you have Apple and Google struggling to hold on to their dominance on their smartphones, walled gardens right now. Right now, it is now legally enforceable that Apple has to let other companies have storefronts for apps and stuff on the iPhone that is off of the App Store. They have to allow that. Right now, they can only enforce it to allow it to be on the web. Right now, like, so you remember when Fortnite got pulled off the Apple Store, off the iPhone and all that stuff? That was because Epic was being cheeky. And they poked the bear. They did it on purpose. They knew they were going to get in trouble. Where they said, hey, you can buy your V-Bucks for cheaper if you tap this on the Fortnite app on your iPhone. It takes you to Epic's website where you could buy them at cheaper prices. That is against Apple's terms of services at that time. European Union basically said, no, you can't allow that anymore. And now on Pokemon Go, I got into Pokemon Go again. I could buy that stuff for cheaper on the Pokemon Go website, not the App Store, not the in-app, store in the Pokemon Go app.
Or it's like
so they're
Twitch.
Already allowing
when you
that.
buy a subscription if you want to buy a subscription on Twitch for a channel, you have to pay an extra $1 because Apple needs to get a cut.
Right. Amazon raises the price on that so that they're not losing money,
Yeah.
So because of that stuff going on, if you're Microsoft and you're like, hey, this will eventually happen to consoles. We think it will eventually happen to consoles. So if we can position ourselves right off the bat, jumping in and being like, yeah, if you want to buy a game on Steam and play that on your Xbox, and it's Steam making the money, Valve making the money, and not us necessarily, we're okay with that. They're looking at it as a much more open... Because if you think about it, I have hundreds of games on Steam, Devin. If that's true, I will buy an Xbox. Because now I have this other ecosystem. You were talking about the people bought games on PlayStation 4. That's why they weren't digitally. That's why they didn't migrate over to Xbox Series X. Well, guess what? I have a lot of games on Steam. If they're on the next Xbox, shit. Well, then yeah. Granted, a lot of my games are old, like very
I
old.
honestly, if that was like announced like this year, being like, hey, I would probably get an Xbox Series X just like on cheap, and then just
Yeah.
have it in my house, and I could be like, you know what, I will play. I have a couple. I have Fallout New Vegas on Steam. I don't know if I'll ever play it on Steam, but like I was like, maybe one day I'll get a Steam Deck or something. You know what I mean? Just for
Oh yeah.
airplane rides or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I can play all my Steam games on there. Fuck it. If it's on TV, I can be like, cool. I already have a copy of it. I'm not going to purchase.
Right.
That's right. So that'll be an interesting thing.
They open that up because then also because they like because here's the thing. They think, this is my opinion. They think that what's happening to phones will happen to the consoles because ultimately walled garden ecosystems on a standalone electronic device that is managed by the manufacturer, like their ecosystems or storefronts are managed by them, iron fist. I don't actually necessarily see a problem with that, to be fair, but I'm a little bit biased, I guess. They see it changing. If they got in front of it, they get to be a pro gamer, pro consumer, good guys. Eventually, we're going to be forced into doing it, so they get to do it. And hey, if Sony doesn't do anything like that, and they they won't want to do that. They're going to be forced and dragged into it. And hey, it makes Xbox look a little bit better. And like I said, I have hundreds of games on Steam. I'm not going to buy an Xbox because I don't have any games on Xbox's digital store. I have them on PlayStation and Steam. You put one of them on your Xbox, I will buy an Xbox.
I have games on the Epic Game Store that probably I could use on before Xbox.
That's actually another point right there. Epic thought that they could take a giant chunk out of Valve's pie on the PC digital distribution, storefront marketplace there by just losing money by shelling out so much to make games free. This is free. This is free. This is exclusive. This is exclusive. No one gave a shit, and Epic has lost money on that whole project. The whole Epic Games Store project.
It's always hard to chip away at the dominant
because people are like,
force.
I like this. I'm just fine with this. I'm fine with this. It's the same thing with the most played games of last year are all live service games from years ago, like Fortnite and Minecraft and Roblox. Because at the end of the day, it's almost like, you play sports. You like sports. You got to play all the sports? No, you found a couple sports you like to play. It's an activity. It's a hobby. You like to play that. I like bird watching. I'm not also... I'm hypothetical. I'm not this person. But I'm like bird watching. I'm not also checking out all the fucking mushrooms and the plants and the this and the that. I found the one thing I like. I like playing Fortnite, is someone out there. That doesn't mean I have to play all these video games. So they found something they're comfortable with. People are comfortable with Steam. People are comfortable with PlayStation. People are they see Xbox
and the longer
almost
you have
how they saw
someone...
Nintendo. It's an extra thing in addition to the thing I already get. People bought a Wii, and they also bought an Xbox 360 or a PlayStation 3. They didn't buy a PlayStation 3 and an Xbox 360. Nintendo had a different thing going on. That's how they're surviving and thriving, is because they have a different thing going on. Microsoft needs to be different from PlayStation because they're losing. They lost. They're gone.
To me, I was gonna say, if that's kind of your rough prediction, I'm just gonna go straight console war logic. PlayStation will run the show. Eventually, Switch will be owned by Nintendo will be bought somehow by Sony. And we're in the end times where... I'm joking, but no, I could see a potential future still where Xbox keeps faltering, and then maybe Microsoft just is like, we're done doing games. That's also still a possibility. That'd be a huge loss for them, but it's not, I don't think, out of the question based off how they cut studios. No problem. They can be like, you know what?
Yeah.
This video game thing is costing us a lot of money. We can just really stick with cool software shit. Fuck it, maybe we'll make a fucking cell phone or something.
They can make
if you want to do
small
hardware
investments into gaming, but they're not on a box they have to manufacture and lose money on. They could just publish games on PC and PlayStation and Nintendo. Remember when Google Stadia was a thing? Google
I feel like Xbox
swing
could
their
be
big dick around and get in there, and they lost.
You're kind of describing Sega, right? Sega at one point was in the hardware game, and they've realized, you know what, we're just going to stick to making Sonic games. You know, but could Xbox follow that same kind of thing? That's a possibility too. Obviously, the future's up in the air. We're not going to be full experts, and this is just kind of fun predictions. But I don't know. I could see it being, yeah, I could see Xbox just kind of being a thing. Like our kids will ask,
Microsoft
"Oh, what was the
does
Xbox
make
like?"
hardware stuff. I think the idea of there always being one or maybe two, because Xbox Series X and S, one big console in the living room by Xbox that's powerful, that's like competitive. I can see that changing. I can see. I mean, there are reports that they want to make their own handheld. That's like a Steam Deck or like all of these PC handhelds. There's a rumor that Sony's also making another PlayStation Portable, but it's not its own thing. It's a PC. It's a portable PC that's PlayStation branded. Because hey, guess what? We're throwing all of our games on PC over time. You know, it makes sense that we have hardware in that space. Because guess what? The people buying PCs are not the people buying consoles. Right? There's the overlap. I'm overlap. You're overlap. But let's be real here. We both stated we majority play our time, our big games on console. We're not that big PC gamer. We buy some PC games. I have a lot of old PC games. Right. I talked about if they were on Xbox, if I could play my Steam games on Xbox. Most of them I bought because they were specifically old PC games and not old games in general. So I guess it's a little bit different. But if Sony wants to make a handheld piece, like a PC gaming handheld that like is tailored more so for the PlayStation stuff or whatever, like that's not going to eat into their things. I see what you're saying is like Xbox stopped making hardware. I don't think that'll be the case. I just think the hardware they will make will be different. I don't necessarily see them.
I mean, it's more in the traditional sense. I can see them wanting to make
the most powerful console, but not making a lot of them. I can see them being okay with having.
Well, at that point, you could just call it call it an Xbox still. But like, what if they're like, you know what, we'll make a PC, like one of those pre-built things that you see, like I don't know, like all those other PC companies do. I'm trying to give an example, but like Alienware, right? Like you can get the pre-built gaming PC that they upcharge a little bit because it's pre-built for you. But for some people that, like me even, who doesn't like the idea of building a PC, gets stressed about it. They're like, I just want it made. You know what I mean? It's like, I'd rather have just the new car and not worry about.
Yeah, I think Xbox branded PCs.
So Xbox could, that's what I can see.
And their Xbox in the living room being essentially a PC is also very possible, right? If Steam, again, it's not going to be a walled garden. Here's the Xbox ecosystem. They have to open up. They're going to open up. PlayStation
open up
can afford.
Borders. It's like the Cold War. Xbox has been USSR for so long, and now they're like, fuck it. Sony's winning. We got to let them in. But no, I feel like this is kind of where I wanted to hear this conversation because I feel like it's good. I think we are at the start of a turning point in history of gaming. Whether it's good, bad, ugly, I don't know yet. We'll figure that out. It's ugly at the sense right now with people getting laid off. Don't want to. I know our conversation turned to like, yay, consumerism, but like, want to still echo like awful it is that all these people are getting let go for decisions out of their control or over money, and it sucks. I hope Xbox in a way doesn't go away because I always found their branding just a little bit better. I had a hot take as a PlayStation guy. I do like. I'm looking at this picture of. On this one Kotaku article that we had up earlier, maybe, where it has Xbox. I've always loved that font. I like that newerish font. I like that light. I always like green more than blue, too. So it's just a personal taste. I always liked Xbox branding. And after using an Xbox controller for my Game Boy Color,
don't say it.
Game Boy Color.
Game Boy Advance.
I do like the Xbox controller. I thought I was going to be a hater when I first got it, and I've turned into a liker. But so in a way, I'm like, I do like some of Xbox's hardware stuff, and nothing beats the OG. I think the early 2000s of like the Xbox and PS2 like just come in a way like complement each other, just like the different styles. That's something about having that big chunky thing in your TV. I didn't have one, but I was always jealous of it. Back then, there was a reason
to own all three because they all had exclusive games and they all did different things.
But no, I think it was a good conversation of like kind of like a loose predictions of, is the console war over? Is this a new one beginning in a different way? It's going to be interesting the next. But who knows? We could be completely wrong. Maybe consoles in general are just a thing of the past, and it just turns into, like you said, a weird home PC console mashup where it's like, you get the PlayStation. It's just called the PlayStation. You get a new part to it every 5 years, like you do with if there's a way, like the thing that's always been, I think for me, not getting a new GPU is because I'm scared to fucking break anything, and I know it's not that complicated, but like with the new PS5, with the not the new PS5. It's been out for 4 years. Jesus Christ. But putting like the SD card, it's like much more simpler. Like if they can find a way, like Xbox can find a way to make
SSD.
a home PC that they can swap out GPUs in a really simple way.
It all just depends on if these companies find that investment worthwhile. You know what I mean? Like making things cheaper for the consumer at the cost of, you know, the corporation, the guys making the money. Maybe, you know, it's just the same thing with your. Oh yeah, they could afford to make a Madden that is a platform that they add yearly updates to. But they're already on a good track of just selling a yearly Madden anyway, so
yep.
You know, it's a risk that some of these companies are going to have to think about more. But this was fun. I'm glad we had this conversation.
For sure.
The future of gaming is dim because of layoffs, but I do think that things will rebound. In terms of like companies will have to start hiring back up again. It will take a bit of a crash. I think we're basically already crashing. And who knows?
I mean, I think everything feels like it's crashing lately.
Well, yeah.
If we're being honest.
I just want to be optimistic because I want to continue to live, and I'm hungry. So you know, we got to end up this show. We got to wrap up this show, Devin. Thank you for joining me. Remember, folks, if you did not know, and I know it's possible that you didn't know, we're a YouTube channel. We're also on
podcast services.
God, I'm so tired right now.
Around the globe.
Yes, podcast services around the globe. Apple Music, Spotify, Audacity, Audible. We're on all of those. But yes, please check out the YouTube channel. YouTube.com.
It's the preferred way to watch.
You get to watch
us. We're like Game Pass a bit. Like, yeah, we have the options for you, but really we want you to buy the console.
Right.
We want you to go on YouTube and subscribe, please.
And hey, if you're on YouTube right now, you click the subscribe thing. And check out some stuff. It'd be all cool. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and the like at Sonic Movie Show. I know this background is very dark and it's not showing the at Sonic Movie Show all that well, but it's at Sonic Movie Show. Check us out on those places and let us know what you think about the future of Xbox. And specifically, if you're an Xbox fan, like if you're a diehard Xbox guy, like right now, your opinion matters more than others that aren't on for this topic because I want to know what you think. You know. How much money did you spend on the Xbox brand that you feel like you're kind of not getting rewarded for? You know, that type of stuff.
Or do you feel you're getting rewarded? We don't want to
I guess that's fair. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you next time for another episode. As always, goodbye.
Xbox out.
Xbox out. There we go.